be very brief. Can I respond to that? Look, please. The Maverick, let's talk about the Maverick John McCain is. And again, I love him. He's been a Maverick on some issues, but he has been no Maverick on the things that matter to people's lives. He voted 4 out of 5 times for George Bush's budget, which put us $500 billion in debt this year and over $3 trillion in debt since he's got there. He has not been a Maverick in providing health care for people. He voted against including another 3.6 million children in coverage of the existing health care plan when he voted in the United States Senate. He's not been a Maverick when it comes to education. He has not supported tax cuts and significant changes for people being able to send their kids to college. He's not been a Maverick on the war. He's not been a Maverick on virtually anything that generally affects the things that people really talk about around their kitchen table. Can we get mom's MRI? Can we send Mary back to school next semester? We can't make it. How are we going to heat the house this winter? He voted against even providing for what they call LIHEAP, for assistance to people with oil prices going through the roof in the winter. So Maverick he is not on the important critical issues that affect people at that kitchen table. Look, I understand what it's like to be a single parent. When my wife and daughter died and my 2 sons were gravely injured, I understand what it's like as a parent to wonder what it's like if your kid's going to make it. I understand what it's like to sit around the kitchen table with a father who says, I got to leave, champ, because there's no jobs here. I got to head down to Wilmington, and when we get enough money, honey, we'll bring you down. I understand what it's like. I'm much better off than almost all Americans now. I get a good salary as United States Senate. I live in a beautiful house. It's my total investment that I have. So I am much better off now. But the notion that somehow, because I'm a man, I don't know what it's like to raise 2 kids alone. I don't know what it's like to have a child you're not sure is going to make it. I understand, as well as, with all due respect, the governor or anybody else, what it's like for those people sitting around that kitchen table. And guess what? They're looking for help. They're looking for help. They're not looking for more of the same.
Probably the biggest cliche about the vice presidency is that it's a heartbeat away. Everybody's waiting to see what would happen if the worst happened. How would you disagree on some things from your principles? You disagree on Alaska, drilling in Alaska, the National Wildlife Refuge. You disagree on surveillance law, at least you have in the past. How would a Biden administration be different from an Obama administration if that were to happen?
Well, God forbid that it would ever happen. It would be a national tragedy of historic proportions if it were to happen. But if it did, I would carry out Barack Obama's policies. His policies of reinstating the middle class, making sure that they get a fair break, making sure that they have access to affordable health insurance, making sure they get serious tax breaks, making sure that we can help their children to get to college, making sure we have an energy policy that leads us in the direction of not only toward independence and a cleaner environment, but an energy policy that creates 5 million new jobs, a foreign policy that ends this war in Iraq, a foreign policy that goes after the one mission the American public gave the president after 9/11, to get and capture or kill bin Laden and to eliminate al-Qaeda. A policy that would in fact engage our allies in making sure that we knew we were acting on the same page and not dictating. And a policy that would reject the Bush doctrine of preemption and regime change and replace it with a doctrine of prevention and cooperation. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the biggest ticket item that we have in this election. This is the most important election you will ever have voted in, any of you, since 1932. And where such stark differences, I would follow through on Barack's policies because, in essence, I agree with every major initiative he is suggesting.
Governor.
And heaven forbid, yes, that would ever happen.
And when it comes to establishing your worldview, I was curious, what newspapers and magazines did you regularly read before you were tapped for this to stay informed and to understand the world?
I've read most of them, again, with a great appreciation for the press, for the media.
But like what one specifically, I'm curious that you...
all of them, any of them that have been in front of me over all these years. I have a vast variety of sources where we get our news to. Alaska isn't a foreign country where it's kind of suggested, it seems like, wow, how could you keep in touch with what the rest of Washington, D.C. may be thinking and doing when you live up there in Alaska? Believe me, Alaska is like a microcosm of...
People know the middle class has gotten the short end. The wealthy have done very well. Corporate America has been rewarded some time. We change it. Barack Obama will change it.
Governor.
Say it ain't so, Joe. There you go again, pointing backwards again, though. You prefaced your whole comment with the Bush administration. Now, doggone it, let's look ahead and tell Americans what we have to plan to do for them in the future. You mentioned education, and I'm glad that you did. I know...